Now it is my pleasure to introduce the wonderful Natalia Dyer. Hi, Natalia.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. It's good to see you again.
You again and your beautiful wall.
Thank you so much. So I wanted to kind of open this up with a very important question, and that is, when did you first know that you wanted to be an actress?
Ooh, wow. I guess I was quite young. What happened was I grew up in an athletic family. I was at sports camp. I didn't like it. I think I sprained an ankle, and it just happened to be that the only spot left in the camp was in the drama section. So I was put in that, and yeah, I'd never really done anything like that before, and I loved it. Started doing some theater. I was very fortunate to have parents who were very supportive and would drive me to things and auditions and rehearsals. But I really, I just loved it from a young age, and just kind of fell into it from there.
You really did fall into it, huh?
Really fell into it.
So I think it's, to follow up on that, obviously when you start off in this industry and as from a young age, there's probably someone who you look to on the screen, maybe in theater. Are there a couple names that really come to mind when you think about acting and people who you hope to have a career like?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Yeah. When I was younger, I definitely looked more towards Broadway, or people, like Meryl Streep. That was, that's still the name that's just thrown around. I think, I try not to compare myself too much with anybody, but I was thinking about this a while ago, that someone like, I don't know, Margot Robbie came to mind. I think because, she's someone who's done quite a lot of different kinds of roles and really embraced a lot of different kinds of characters. So I think for me as an actor, that's kind of what I'd like. I'd like to just play so many different kinds of people, and get the chance to do that. So anybody's career who I think kind of is just very broad and adventurous, and I think it's nice to have that sense of trying something and feeling like you can fail. Not that Margot Robbie ever has, but I think that sort of just wide variety of play, I think is something that I love to see in actors.
Well, I can tell you right now, you're going to have a very long career ahead of you. You are just terrific in everything that I have seen you in, and I will continue to root for you. But I want to talk a little bit more about your start in the industry. And then we're going to jump into the reason we are here today, a film that I know is very near and dear to your heart. But we need to talk about the impact that independent films and short films have had on your career.
Oh my gosh, yes, so much. Yeah, I mean, my first real like film role where I, really felt that I was in the world and kind of had creative input on a character was an independent film, a very low budget independent film called I Believe in Unicorns. And it was, my first foray into the independent world, and sort of, I think, the heart and the spirit of film and in general. I think the independent films and short films that I've worked on always just have such a sensibility of passion from everybody, from the actors, from the crew, there's such room for creativity and exploration, even despite budgets. I'm very in love with independent film. I think that's where some of our best, most creative, most daring, interesting stories come from.
Yeah, absolutely. And this brings me to this little film right here. Yes, God, yes. And which started off as a short film. I don't know if everyone knows that, but it did start off as a short film, which I went back and watched in preparation for this. And it looks like you were the only person of the original cast who actually made it to the movie version, like the full version. Is that correct?
I I guess so. Yeah. I mean, it was really the short film we shot in just a couple days in New York, and it was a lot of fun. A bit of a whirlwind in that way, but then yeah, got this whole new amazing cast for the feature length, which was just really special and fun and so funny. But yeah, it started out as a short, though Karen Main had conceptualized the feature initially.
Yeah. And what was it about the short that really spoke to you, that made you know right when you were doing that you wanted to be a part of the feature?
It was very unconventional. The way I got it was through an email, which already kind of like caught my attention. I guess someone who knew, like a producer's friend who knew me, sent it through email. So I was like, what's this? And then I saw that Karen had worked on Obvious Child, which was a film that I absolutely adored, saw multiple times. So that, honestly, that was the first kind of like, oh my gosh, okay, wow, wow, wow. And then yeah, they sent me the script for the short, and just really reading it pleasantly surprised me from beginning to end, in the sense that it was just the character, the story, the message, if you want to call it that, the content of what was going on was so, yeah, so surprising, in the sense that I never come across a character or a female story like this before, that was, so funny and felt very, kind of relatable. So it really didn't take long. I think I read through it once and passed along to my people. I'm like, I just got this. What do you think? Yes. I think yes. It was really, yeah, it felt very serendipitous in a way. But it was, that was before I met anybody who works on it. Just the script itself really pulled me in.
Yeah. And as I told you before, I think you did such a terrific job in this film. It really is a breakthrough performance for you. I mean, you've never had the opportunity prior to this to take center stage. And rewatching this film yesterday, you say so much in just your facial mannerisms, the way you blink your eyes, the way you sigh, the way, you look to the side, you go like this. It just goes to show how incredible you are as an actress.
Thank you. I thank you. I do always like to give credit where credit's due. And I think Karen Main, also being a first-time director, just really killed it. I'm an actor who I really like to play. I really like to go in with something, and I'll try something, but I'll do the same scene for forever. Just give me something to play with or try, and of course if you're happy, great, we can move on. But Karen really was so good at directing her actors, which was kind of surprising, seeing as how she wasn't an actor or a director. She just really came in with this approach that felt very honest and open, which just worked really well to let us collaborate on this character.
Yeah. How were your nerves while you were doing this movie? Because obviously it is sort of semi-autobiographical. We both know this. So is there any sort of reservations that you had with the movie, just because you knew that you were working with someone's life story?
I mean, in some ways, I think, again, like, once I met Karen, she's so open, she's so funny, she's so forthcoming with her story and her ideas, that it felt very comfortable, even from the read through for the short, working with her. And she felt very encouraging. So that really helped. I think that there was a lot of exchange of information. She gave me physical resources that she had collected in her life. But there was a very quick sense of trust, I think. And, I could speculate in some ways it being about a female, very personal female story, and her being a female and me being a female. There's probably a lot of unspoken, just understood, language going on there. So I in that sense, I wasn't too uncomfortable. Honestly, for what this film is and for the scenes that we did, I'm a little surprised at how kind of easy it felt. I think honestly talking about it after it's come out has been harder to do than because you're just living in this life, but verbalizing it has been a little bit trickier for me, I think.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think if you connect with someone who you're collaborating with, it probably makes life so much easier.
Yeah. It was as an actor, you're gifted with a great script, and you're gifted with great directors and of course castmates. It felt just like a very, for being so low budget and independent film, and kind of a story that is probably initially kind of hard to get to market to people, I'm sure. It felt like it went pretty smoothly, so I'm very very blessed by that situation.
All right. So the main theme of this film, it deals with judgment of others. There's other things that we're going to talk about, but the main theme is judgment. And obviously, as an actor, you have been judged constantly throughout your life. Oh my gosh. And I'm sure it probably even ties into some of the reasons why you're not even on social media all that much and things of that nature. So, how important was it for you to be in a film like this, where everyone in this movie had their own problems that they were sweeping underneath the rug?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it was really amazing coming from the short, which, dealt with some of the main sort of scenes and issues that you see in the film, which is on that same topic. But to go from that and to finally see the feature-length script that Karen had written with so many layers, so many levels, but that all tie back into this theme, but still managed to keep it funny and light and relatable, I think was really nice and really important. I think you're so right. I think this film can get turned in a lot of ways, and believe me, I've read some reviews that really turn it in a lot of ways. But I think it really comes to the idea of like just not being too judgmental. Like we're all just trying to live our lives. Like that energy is just really stagnating everybody, and living with curiosity and open-mindedness. I think like you said, there's a lot of other things going on, but I think that is the real gist of the film overall.
Yeah, I mean, and you go into this movie and you watch it, and it literally, the whole thing starts because of a rumor.
Right.
That's really what starts this. And the funny thing is that you have all these adults who are like going along with this rumor, and they're not even like second guessing it. They're just kind of like, oh, they're not kids, like kids make up crap. They don't even think that. They literally just go along with it too. Yeah. Which I think is funny, because there's a lot of scenes in this film, and I noticed it even more so last night, where there's those confession scenes, right? Like there's so many moments where like you're filling out a paperwork, like how are you feeling? But you get the real confession when you're not even expecting it, right? When you're at a bar, when you see what's going on and you're at a bar and some random stranger talks to you, and you start coming out and you're just saying like, I hate this and this is how I feel. We talked briefly before when we talked about religion. Mm-hmm. Why do you feel like people feel so afraid of religion? Like, I'm just being honest with their feelings when they're a part of it.
Well, it's something that I think is very hard to just generalize. I did grow up in a religious community, and I've seen both sides of it, I think. But I just think any general society that makes you feel, and that could be, or any clique or any group of people, or any, the articles or things that just kind of make you feel bad about being who you are. And I guess there's this documentary, I don't know if you saw it, The Social Dilemma, on Netflix.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right. Well, the one part that really stuck out to me was the fact that it's talking about how we're naturally tribal creatures, humans, where we want to be accepted and liked by our group. And I think, that can really, if your group is telling you that you are inherently wrong for being who you are, thinking how you think, I think that that's always going to create friction and problems. And it makes me question, well, why? And I hope everybody kind of would question, like, what's, to not feel bad for just being your natural self. So I'd say for, that, and there's so many places in our world that does that. But I think that, again, that's the gist of the film, is that judgment is just, it really just kind of creates a lot of problems for individuals, for groups, and to kind of relax a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings us into the second big topic of the film, which is female sexual discovery. And this is a big topic because so many films are so afraid to tackle this subject. It's something that is seen as taboo. It's got to be always from a male perspective. And honestly, and maybe I'm wrong, but very few films, except for a few of them that have been released in the last couple of years, have tackled this subject matter as in-depthly as this movie has. So I know you feel passionate about this.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me how you feel and why you think that aspect of this film is so important.
Yeah, to be honest, like I said, when I read the script initially, that aspect about it, was as a 20-something-year-old woman, felt very cathartic and very surprising, but in a beautiful way, that this could be a film that could be made and put out there. So I think, when I initially went into the film, it was very much just like, oh, like, yeah, this feels good to me. And then, was kind of getting lost in this character and her journey. Obviously that's been the whole sort of overall idea in a way, while we were making it. But I think, honestly, since it has come out and since I've been talking about it so much, it's really made me put into words how much it means to me and how important I think it is. And I think the state of the world right now, and I think, there is some progress in it. I think we are starting to live in a world where we can say, talk about female masturbation and female pleasure, and talk about the G-spot, and talk about, all of these things that even, there's even like a little hesitation for me when I say that. So we're getting there, but I think it's about time. It's one of those things that, after having done this film and having it come out, and luckily having some really good reception, it's just made me be like, yeah, why isn't there more of this? Why is it still, why do I go in every interview and it is, the concept of it being a taboo keeps coming up, meanwhile, I think on the male side of it, not as much. Definitely not. So I guess I'm passionate also in the sense that I don't think that I, as proud as I am to represent a very female film and a very new way of looking at female sexuality in film, I would hope that there's a lot more of me and women writers, directors, actors, in the hopefully nearish future. So much so that it's just a more easy, it's an easier thing to talk about. It's just kind of an understood thing, but we're not quite there yet. But it's, I think it is very important to me, and I guess increasingly so with talking about this film.
Yeah, I think the subject matter of female sexuality is tough because, especially in the last couple of years, because of there's a lot of misunderstanding within our industry now. With Time's Up and Me Too, I think that there's almost a fear. And I mean, it was and I'll be honest, when I was invited to talk to you today, I was oh, I got to talk to her about masturbation. I have to talk to her about all these subjects. And I just, I'm like, this is a weird subject for me. Like, I'm kind of like, a female should be talking about this, if I'm being honest. But that's, we shouldn't be able to have this conversation. We're both adults.
Great.
But my conversation, but my fear is because like we live in that where it's so taboo to talk about this, that I felt like odd. So I'm just being transparent and saying that.
Yeah, I know. I think that's really interesting. I think, I've gotten asked in interviews several times, obviously the female side of it, but then, how do you think, men are going to find this film, or what do you think, men are going to think about this film? And I guess, I think it's this type of film is very important for females. I hope it's cathartic. I hope it makes you feel seen. I hope, there's first part of it, it's like, oh, me too. Wow. Yeah. But I also would hope that these kind of films, and just being frank about talking about female sexuality, I'd hope that becomes an easy subject for both, any gender to discuss. I think we're all a product of our society and our upbringing and everything. So, it's like I said, even myself, it's kind of like, it takes a little like masturbation. But I think that hopefully as a society, we get to the place where it doesn't feel uncomfortable and we can kind of talk about it. Of course, I get that there's a lot of layers and it's very complex, but I think as long as it's kind of handled with respect and genuine curiosity and openness, that can't be a bad thing,
Yeah. And I think, we should talk a little bit about those scenes in the film. There are multiple scenes of masturbation, cell phone, broom, mop, and it's interesting because, they're not necessarily what we would deem sexy. They're kind of awkward, and it's very true to life in terms of like discovering yourself and your body. What was it like filming those scenes? And like, what was that set like that day when you had to film those?
Yeah, I guess part of the one of the lovely things about Alice's character is that she is so innocent and naive and she's just genuinely figuring out herself, like really doesn't know anything about this. And so it allowed me to sort of exist in a space that didn't feel performative. It didn't feel like it needed to be sexy or sensual or any of those other things that I think we're all used to seeing around female sexuality when it's depicted in film. The way that the character was written and the scenes were written, the props that you're dealing with, like it just gave me a lot of room to feel pretty comfortable and just exploring this in like an honest, awkward, way, which was, I think that is a big aspect to me about this film, was that it's not about like sexy. It's not, like this glossy, sexy female sexual experience. It's very confused and awkward and wondering and embarrassing, which I think is healthy to see. I think it felt, it feels cathartic and fun and funny to play it, but I think it's very healthy to have that version, or many of those versions, on screen. As far as the set goes, I mean, again, there was a lot of females on set, but I think it always felt really safe. I felt really quite fine on set. Everyone obviously was respectful. Everyone was always cracking jokes in general. I think we all sort of, and maybe the nature of it being an independent film as well, we all kind of knew the story we were making. We knew why we were there. It was kind of very understood what is going on and what we're going to film. And honestly, most of it, the weird parts were just logistically figuring out shots and how to move things and what reads and doesn't read, and just kind of very technical film stuff, which is just part of the job. But you think, like, this is so, kind of weird. I tried not to get in my head too much before, during, after about it, and just kind of, just be in it as much as be in Alice's space as much as possible. But I think I can imagine there could be a version of filming these scenes that would not be very fun at all. But for me, I was fortunate that the whole environment felt, as good as I can imagine for
No, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, that's one of those things that if you go back to look at old Hollywood stories, and I mean, you see them coming out now, right? Like, they come out every day, where it's like, oh, when I shot that scene, it was so horrible, and all the stuff that happened, and I think this is the importance of female filmmakers, why we need more of them and more of the stories, because they have the finesse, they have the knowledge. It's like you said, it's relatable to you.
Mm-hmm.
So you feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
So this movie has so many great scenes. We talked about some of them. But I want to ask you, what is your favorite scene in the film?
It does have some really good. I think for me, just living in the actor's sort of personal, selfish experience of making something and then seeing it. There was this scene with everybody when we're all in the circle and we're swaying, and when we're listening to, I think, Peter Gabriel. And it's it's a small scene in the scheme of things, maybe, but it was just such it was a scene that we couldn't really keep ourselves together. Like, the situation, just everything. Tim was just cracking everybody up. So to know what it was to make that scene and to get through that scene and then to see it is really, really funny. But yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's even some of the like heavier scenes, I think, is really interesting to watch. Especially when Tim is just such a funny guy. To see him in these positions is, wow. Yeah, I guess there's a lot. It's been a minute since I've seen them, but that's one that sticks out in my mind.
Yeah, I love, though, also about the film is I love how, we talk about the awkwardness in terms of the sexuality aspect of it. I love the fact that your character gets turned on by arm hair.
From the beautiful mind of Karen Maine. Yeah. Yeah, right. But that's sometimes, I think that's, that's a thing. Like, not, I mean, like those sort of things when you're that young, I think, and I think it's for men kind of similar, where it's just, sometimes you just don't know. And it's very innocent, and it's just very not, it's that thing of like, what's going on? What's what is going on right now? This really is a very Karen Main touch to the whole thing, for sure.
Great. Well, I have two more questions for you before we wrap up, but this is going to step outside of Yes, God, Yes, and more about your career and the future. So when your career starts expanding more and more now, what type of characters are you most looking forward to playing?
I think, well, first I have to say an action hero, because that's what I've just been manifesting for a while. I just want to be Tom Cruise, man. I just want to do my own stunts just to see what it's like. I think I think there's definitely the concept of a career and where that goes and where it takes you. But I think for the actor, sometimes there's such a very selfish thing about what do I think is gonna be fun for me? What am I gonna, what do I want to learn to do? What experiences do I personally want to have? And then, you make this thing and it's amazing and you're like, wow, that's also cool. But then you have this whole experience. So that's one that I'd love to do. I think the having not done a lot of comedy and doing, even though I think Alice is I think I played her for myself, kind of quite just honest and in her situation. And everything around her, and it was quite funny. I think more comedic roles would be fun. And then more dramatic. I think the truth is that it's hard to know what characters you want to play until you see it on a page and in your mind, and and there's a lot of brilliant characters that have yet to be written and realized. And I think you just never really know until you kind of have it in your hands. But like I said towards the beginning, I'm really interested in just trying on a lot of different hats. Maybe trying on some hats that don't fit, but now I know they don't fit, or that particular hat didn't fit. But just having the experience of it is honestly what excites me most about this industry and this blessing of a job.
Great. And then lastly, biggest pet peeve as an actor?
Biggest pet peeve as an actor,
and this could be anything. It could be a question you hate being asked in an interview, something directors tell you on set, anything.
I'm sure there's a lot of little tiny petty things. I really, there's two that I can think of. One's a little more silly, and then one's a little more serious. One pet, waiting. I hate the waiting part of it, actually, more than that, the question of what's, I think for actors living in this industry, and you're already kind of constantly worrying about what you're doing next, you're already really worried about it and trying not to think about it. And then, even my parents all the time, I'll be in the middle of filming Stranger Things and they're like, do you have anything lined up after this? I'm like, yeah, that's no, I don't know. It's just a very, flying by the seat of your pants kind of job. So the question, I think, just gives a lot more anxiety. And the other one that I was thinking of was sometimes you'll work with actors who will be reading off camera and they'll be doing a certain performance for you while you're on camera, and then the camera turns around and it's a completely different performance, and you're just like, if I knew you were going to do that, then but that's just, it's very silly little tiny things. The overall, obviously, it's just, I love my job, man. I love my job.
Well, you'll be doing it for a very long time. I want to just say once again, thank you so very much. And everyone watching this, if you have not seen Yes, God, Yes, please do so. It is available on Netflix. You can stream it on Netflix right now, or you can buy the DVD, or it's on Amazon Prime. So definitely check it out. We want to thank you for joining us and for sharing your experience, process, and craft with your fellow performers. Thank you, Natalia.
Thank you so much. Lovely to chat again.
Always.